Welcome to the Speaking in Spirit podcast. We are in season 3. Uno, dos, tres. 3.
Or trois for our French listeners.
Oh, okay. Look at you. Okay, French. Okay. Anyway, so thank you guys. We have been really trying to get this season up and launched and ready for you guys to listen to. I pray that this is going to be one of the best seasons that we have. We've grown a lot. Before I get into all of that, I am your host, Amber Nicole. I am a confidence and relationship coach, and we're gonna add vulnerability coach to that too, because I've really been getting into being vulnerable and learning how to be vulnerable, and then teaching people on vulnerability as well. And then my lovely co-host.
Hello, I'm Valencia. I am a creativepreneur, so that means I model, I sing, I write, and publish children's books. And whatever the Lord leads me to is what I do.
Yes, love it. All right, guys. So if you guys listen to any of the podcasts before, if you haven't, go back and listen to season 1 and season 2. Okay, don't just jump in and be like, I don't know these girls. Listen to those seasons, or if you want to just jump in, it's fine. You'll get to know us either way. We are always authentic in everything that we do. Speaking in Spirit is a Christian-based podcast. For those of you that don't know, you hear the name Speaking in the Spirit because we are not moving by our emotions. We are moving by the Holy Spirit on the inside of us as we are speaking. So we usually have a role of how we do things. So the first thing we're going to go is talk about is our
praise report. Yay. Basically, the praise report is just sharing something that God has done in our lives that we just wanted to take this time to share publicly on our platform. So I'll go first.
Yes.
My praise report is that the Lord has kept me from dangers seen and unseen. I was supposed to go on a trip on this Friday, which was about 3 days after the DCA crash and the day of the Philadelphia crash. And I just was like, Lord, if I'm not supposed to get on this plane, let me know. And sure enough, I just felt like the Holy Spirit he just came over me, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go home to my family and see them another day. And so I just thank God for that safety and protection.
Yes, that's a great praise report because it just shows how you use your discernment. You wasn't like, you know what, I gotta be there and I feel so bad. I mean, you feel bad for not being there, but at the end of the day, it would have been worse if something was to happen to you, because you do have to make sure you have a daughter that you have to take care of. So just making sure you did that is super, super important.
Thank you.
My praise report is the fact that
I'm sorry. That was the second time and I just had to say, okay.
Yes.
Go ahead.
It really is the fact that the last 6 months, God has really been moving mightily in my life. Like, he's been opening up my eyes to see people for who they really are. He's been blessing me in ways that I didn't deserve to be blessed, but he's like, because I love you, I'm going to do it for you. So one of the things that I was really, really praying for one of the last seasons was I wanted a house. Like, I'm like, I need a house. I need a place to stay. I need something that I'm secure, because I remember talking about how I don't like not being secure in one spot. Like, I was bouncing around, and that's not the person that I am. So now I'm in a secure place, as you can see, my lovely house in the background. So I'm just so grateful that God has really blessed me in a way. Like I said, this wasn't me. It was definitely him. He moved some things out the way that I could not have done on my own. It definitely was God that helped me with building my credit and things like that. So I'm grateful.
That is awesome, because we've been talking about it and it's finally here, and I'm just so happy for you. It is a beautiful home, and I'm glad you have a roof over your head and a place you can call your own.
Yes.
So awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So the topic, guys, that we are going to discuss today for our season 3 launch is vulnerability. But we're really going to talk about it with, right? Oh my God, who wants to do that? What? It's so hard. hard.
And it's like, whoa, okay, peel back those layers.
Yes, yes. But we're gonna start with vulnerability and friendship first and foremost, because the base of everything starts with friendship. So we are going to share a little bit about our friendship and how we had to be vulnerable and how our vulnerability has allowed us to be closer and be more connected and more aligned with what God has called us to do because we allowed those doors to open up for us. Do you do you want to start by what? Like how we met? Like what do you how do you want to start? What do you think? What are you thinking?
It's so funny that you asked me that because I was kind of thinking about this beforehand. Like, we've done an episode of how we met, and,
Mhm.
that was in a few seasons. So we
Mhm.
could do that again. We don't have to, spend much time on that since we have that. But then also just like how we, I guess, became closer and like, we like found that trust within one another to be able to be vulnerable. Because like
Yeah.
how we met to that, it just, to me, when I think about it, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. But
Yeah.
when I think about who I am and like being in therapy, I'm like, now it makes sense. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So basically, how we met was at I can't even remember, it was like a graphic words t-shirt party.
Yeah, it was expressions party.
Yeah, expressions. It basically, you had some type of saying on your shirt. And so I'm there with my friends. Like, I think I was there with like three other ladies. And then I saw Amber uh, alone, and she had exactly what I like. One of my models is never settle. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I for some reason that's the only shirt I can really remember. Like, I don't even remember what I had on. But that one, I was like, okay, let me get my drink, and then I'm gonna go speak to her, because I'm like, clearly she's by herself. Like, I'm not gonna let her. If we there, I'm not about to let her stand by herself. And
Mhm.
so, my best friend at the time, while I'm getting my drink, because okay, we'll talk about me later. Anyways, I'm getting my drink. My best friend at the time went to go talk to her and bring her over, and I was like, oh, that's so funny, because I literally said, once I get my drink, I'm gonna go over there.
Yeah.
She comes over here, comes with us. Rest of the day, we're kicking it at the party. Then after that, we end up going to get some food and kicked it a little more. And then that basically started it, like we
Mhm.
just ex- experienced that we were just really cool, chill people, like to laugh, like to party. Well, we weren't like partying hard. It was classy. It was
Classy
demure.
party.
It was
Wasn't nobody out there twerking, nothing like that.
no, line dancing kind of stuff,
Yeah.
so like Midwest, that's what we tend to do. Anywho, um, so then I think from there, we didn't really talk to each other like every day or anything, but I think we like checked in here and there. And then
Mhm.
I ended up moving. I was moving to Charlotte, North Carolina, and she was invited to one of my like going away parties.
Mhm.
And like, for her to show up, like, that meant a lot to me, because I'm like, you don't know me from a can of paint, and I don't know you from a can of paint, but you
Yeah.
saw something in me to be like, well, she was a cool chick. Like, let me, say, like, see you later, but you'll always still be in my heart.
Yeah, yeah. Right. Because we're moving further away.
Okay, I'm supposed to be serious. Anywho, Um, but like, now that I'm thinking about that, because I have not really thought about that day, like that was really awesome. And then um from there, that actual day, Amber told me that she was moving away from Minnesota as well. And so I think just because we had a lot of commonalities, that's like what drew us together.
Mhm.
Um, but then even from there, we weren't like talking every day. It was like here and there, which is so interesting. I'm like, what happened? Anyways, so I'm in Charlotte for a year, and um I think it must have been just like Instagram and social media kind of like conversation. Like I don't really remember
Yes.
us having in-depth conversations until I moved to Maryland about a year after that. I was only in Charlotte for a year. And so some things happened with my current best friend where I was like, oh, like, okay, we're just not compatible anymore. You know, our lives are going in different trajectories. So let's, you know, there's always love here. It's just not some, I don't know how to really explain that whole situation because there's still love there, you know. So eventually I just kind of turned to Amber. I was like, I feel like I need someone to talk to.
Yeah.
And I would just talk to her and I would call her. I'm like, this is what's going on in my life. Like, what do you think about this? And I would just call her. Like, it almost became every day at some points. It would be like
Mm-hmm.
every day I would call Amber and be like, well, what's going on? This is what's going on
Mm-hmm.
with me. And da da da. And then it just blossomed. And I feel like you should chime in at this part because all I know is my side of this story. You know, like I don't know what happened. Like, because it just the way everything fell into place. I'm like, that just does not make sense. How we became very close and in a quick amount of time, if that makes sense. Like the way I explained it seems like a long time, but it really I don't really feel like it took that long. I don't
Mm-mm.
know.
No. And yeah, like she said, guys, I was by myself when we initially met. But I want to get into the whole thing when you were in North Carolina and that whole transition of things. Like we got
Right.
the basis of things, but I do want to speak, specifically about the fact that when you want to have friends, like because we always say as an adult it's so difficult to find friends, and it's difficult. Like she said, I'm standing by myself and they just walk over to me and I could not have been receptive, or we could have just hung out that night and that was it. Like, you know what I mean? It was like,
Mhm.
no, what's your phone number? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do we, you know what I mean? Like, just like intimate relationships, friendships is all about reciprocity. Like you were giving something and I was receiving and giving it back to you. Like I wasn't just like, just like, well, just letting her
Right.
call me all the time. Eventually I was like, okay, she really wants a friendship. And as an introvert, as who don't, for those who don't know, like I'm pretty introvert. I don't find friends easily because I don't talk to people easily. So when I do find people that align with who I am as a person, who can accept me for me, which is something that you did, then I latch on. I'm like, you're my friend forever. Like, like my friends that I have been my friends for years because I'm very loyal. I hold on. And as long as we, even if we went through bumps in the road, I'm always able to get through those things. Right. But when I was in Florida, I didn't know anybody at that time. I knew I had my sister there, but I didn't have like really friends or anything like that. And so it was a transition that I was going through, that even though you were in another state and you were leaving, we were building in other states. Like you were in North Carolina, I'm in Florida, and a lot of people will be like, "What's the point of us being friends? Like we don't even live in the same state. We can't even, like, you know what I mean?" I want everybody to hear this right now. If you have friends and women or men and men, whatever, that live in other states, that does not mean that you can't be friends. Because we have never lived together since we left Minnesota, and we was only there for like a month together at the beginning of our friendship. After that, you left, I left, and yet we still was able to build like the bond that we have now. And it was because we both wanted it. Like I wanted a friend, you wanted a friend. I wanted someone who accepted me for me. You wanted at the same time. And not only that, like we give each other advice and things like that. So it
Right.
goes to show that when you have friends, you got to have someone who is receptive of you. Like, you know what I'm saying? A lot of times, people that they try to force friendships or something like that, and friendships can't be forced. Like
No.
there's people, I mean, like you said with, the other girl you was friends with or whatever, that I had a friendship too, that just things that were happening, you people grow apart. You move out of alignment. She moved out of Minnesota and moved into another place or whatever. So just those things that just all of a sudden what we had in common, we just don't have in common no more. And that's just what it is. No love lost. It's just that our commonality and where we're going, and you're going here and I'm going here, and it just is what it is. There was no hatred, no anger, no bitterness. It was really just your life were going in different directions, and you had to, it's more important that you go with God's calling on your life and where he's taking you versus trying to hold on to something that's going to keep you in a lesser version of yourself because you're not allowing yourself to fully blossom into who God is calling you to be. And then you
Mhm.
don't want to come off as seeming judgmental to people because they're not doing and living life the way you living it. And then you're just like, well, why are you doing this? And why, at that point, you're not friends no more. Like, because now you just, you know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, so when here you coming to me, it allowed me to see that you really wanted a friendship. And so I'm just like, well, I want the same thing too. So since we both wanted the same thing, I was receptive to the phone calls you were making, and the more you were calling me, because it definitely started being more on your end than mine, where you were calling me more and you were reaching out more. But once I seen that, then I started realizing that, okay, she's not just, this isn't just basic, I'm just checking up on you because I'm bored type. Because, sometimes some people do that too. But they're like, I don't have nothing to do. Let me just say, what you doing? What you doing? And the conversation goes absolutely nowhere. Right. And that wasn't us. Like when we would talk, our conversations, we would talk. Like, you know what I mean? Like there weren't shallow conversations. What you doing? How you doing? I'm just living here. I'm just doing this. No, we would literally talk. This is what's happening in life. This is what's going on. Here's some of the things I'm dealing with. Like we really had conversations, but that comes
Yeah.
with discernment. Um, and what I mean by that is we had enough discernment to realize that me sharing this with you, I was able to. Like you came off as a safe space for me to be able to say stuff to you, and vice versa. I was a safe space for you to share the information with so that we can have those conversations. We weren't just blabbing at the mouth. Like it was like she seems like someone that I can trust and be able to
Mhm.
talk with. And so from there, that's how everything just kept building, because it was like when you're safe with someone, like there's so many people today that you can't be safe with. Like you want to be able to share your vulnerabilities and what you're going through and your struggles, and you want to be able to share, what life is, and you can't do that. And so, and there's only a select few people you can do that with. And I only had, I think, what, two friends at the time. So that I really was like open like that with. I had friends, but like two friends I'm really open like that with. So to be able to share that with you, and not only that, me and you are way more closer aligned with how I'm living my life out with God. Like
Mm.
this is not to say anything about my other friends because I love them to death, but they just aren't fully immersed, how I am. You know what I'm saying? And me and you were both was like, God, what you want us to do? How do you want us to do it? Who do you want me to be? I'm gonna do it. Reading the word, getting it, like we were like serious about this walk, serious about this life. And when I seen that for you and you seen that for me, it helped us continue to be like, oh yeah, like this is rare. You don't
Right.
really always find people who's really aligned and really in what you're doing. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Especially if you didn't meet them like in church or something. And even in church, everybody ain't serious. Like, you know what I mean? Even in
You're not.
church, it doesn't mean they really walking with the Lord. It just means we both believe in God.
Exactly.
But I do want to share really quick what vulnerability is
Mm.
for me personally, or based on the how I've perceived it. For me, vulnerability is knowing that it's a risk, but taking the risk anyway.
Mhm.
It's like I know that if I share these things with you, that you can possibly either A, never want to be my friend again, um, B, share my business out there. Like I'm not saying you would done that, but I'm saying when you do it, you're taking the risk for you to be able to say that, but saying I'm gonna take the risk anyways, because I rather take the risk and being vulnerable and open, and because vulnerability is what connects you.
Mhm.
Like if you're not vulnerable in any relationship, it doesn't matter whether it be mother-daughter relationship, sibling relationship, any relationship, it doesn't matter. Intimate relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever. If you're not vulnerable with that person, you don't have a real deep connection with that person. Like, it's the vulnerability that connects you. And so it's like I'm able to share and open up and say these things to you and be open to you. And when you're able to share back with me, we've allowed ourselves to be connected in a way that it's like, if you're not my friend no more, I'm gonna cry. Um, you know,
Mm-hmm.
is there anything that you want to say, like, to expound on that?
Well, it's so funny, like looking back on it based on being in therapy now. I'm like, clearly, all my relationships, I was looking for a therapist. Like, I was looking for someone that I could open up to and wouldn't mind who I was and what I'd been through. Like, I feel like when I spoke to you and opened up about all the things that I had been through and like how I experienced, I'm so sorry about the pinging. Anyways, um, like how I opened up to you, I just felt like, yeah, probably should have shared some of those things to a therapist. However, you were at that safe space. Like, you showed that you cared and that you were hearing and listening to me. Like, it wasn't like I was talking to a soundboard. Like, it wasn't like I was talking to just the air and no one was around. Like, I feel like that's what really had made me feel like you were a safe space and that I could open up to you. And like, I think what really made me also be that for you is that I'm like, okay, this is someone who's living life with me. Like, it's not like it's
Mm-hmm.
just someone who is like a pen pal, like I'll write to you here and there. Like, no, like every step of the journey that I've been on, you've been there to encourage me. You've been there to, you know, be be my sometimes you are my sounding board because I help myself out, but at the same time, like you listen to me and you help me see like who I am. Like I felt like I did have scales on my eyes about who I was, and like even though you're like, girl, you need therapy, girl, you need therapy, girl, you need therapy, I'm like, I don't need it. And
Yeah.
finally, going back, I'm like, oh, I did need it. And I was treating, like, I felt like I was unfair to people by treating them as my therapist. And if they didn't, you know, receive it properly, then I, X them off. And I'm like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
no, some people shouldn't get that vulnerable side of you, like I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that's one of the things that I struggle with in relationships is being an open book. Like, I feel like being authentic is fine. However, there's like a time and place for the vulnerable side. And so that's like what I'm
Mm-hmm.
learning on in my journey, because I'm like, well, if you ask, I'll tell you, or I'll just want you to know who I am so you can make your decision now. Or, like I
Mm-hmm.
just feel like having that risk of opening up and sharing with people who you are, I believe that it should be a sacred thing that only specific people get access to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that's kind of like, I guess, my theme of this year of just showing myself that not everybody needs to know about me. It's anyway, sorry. I get on different tangents because I want to stay on topic, but
Yeah.
when it comes to, you know, having conversations, to be vulnerable, you need that person that is actually listening and will actually pour into you wisdom and edifying, behaviors or edifying tactics to implement into your life. Like, if you're the person that's listening, but you're giving negative advice and you're tearing the person down, or you're saying, oh, blow up the popsicle stand because you shouldn't be treated that way. Like, that's something you have to be wary of, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's why I was able to open up with you, because you weren't giving me, love and hip hop responses. You weren't saying, throw that water, girl, like, shake that table. I'm just saying, like, that is like thinking on that now, just that patience you had with me and have for me, because I'm still learning how to, talk, and I'm still learning how to communicate my thoughts on the spot.
Yeah.
Before I would be quiet, before I wouldn't I wouldn't be able to carry a conversation right on the spot. I'd be like, give me some time to think about it. And I'd walk away and I'd be shut down
Mhm.
in my little box. But
Mhm.
the time you spent with me, which might have been agonizing, I don't know, because we would talk for like hours. And
Yeah.
we're like, we'd get off the phone like, girl, it's been 4 hours. Like, we got to
We need to
go,
go.
okay?
Right.
And that'd be like every conversation, which did lead us to this podcast. But it's just like, I am very thankful for that day at the expressions party, because I'm not the type of person to find things like that. That's my thing, is like stand-up comedy. I want to go laugh. That's
Yeah.
my thing.
Mhm.
And if I hadn't had gone to that party, like, I think my daughter was like almost 2. So I wasn't really out on the town. So just thinking about not if that moment I had missed, I would have missed you and being in my life. I probably still would be pretty shut down. I don't think I would be very vocal or, you know, willing to open up to people in like a healthy manner.
Aw.
I don't know. I just
Thank
feel like
you.
you're welcome.
I think what I hear you saying is we found that we had the capacity to be able to hold each other. Like I had the capacity to be able to handle you. And when you say that everyone doesn't deserve that level of vulnerability, it's true. They don't. You don't be vulnerable with everybody. You gotta be vulnerable. You gotta be vulnerable with somebody outside of your mama. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you can't be vulnerable with everybody. Correct? It has to be. They have to have shown you that they have the capacity to handle whatever it is you're dealing with. So, you start by just asking questions and opening up and sharing little things. And then once the conversations goes back and forth, and then you can see, like, you can always tell someone who has the capacity to be able to handle the conversations that you have. Like, if you was opening up to me and sharing certain things and I was just like, yeah, girl, like, man, that's too bad. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Oh man, I'm sorry you're dealing with that, but don't really have much feedback. Those people are typically, they just don't have the capacity to do it. And a lot of times those are people who've never been able to be vulnerable with themselves. So they don't even know
Mhm.
what to say.
Yeah.
But with me, I'd already been coaching. I've already had been in therapy, was in therapy at the time, still in therapy today because therapy works. Um,
Yes.
I've already, me. So I had a level, I was able to be vulnerable and open because I was able to be vulnerable, open with myself. It's something that I was already working on. Um, able to be open and, what I mean? That's just something that I was already doing. So I had the capacity to be able to share that space with you and walk with you and talk with you for 4 hours long. We did have long conversations. We still have long conversations
Yeah. For sure.
today. Yeah.
Like, did I tell you about this? Did I tell you
Yeah.
what did I tell you
Yeah.
about?
Yeah, but it just shows how needed it is to be able to be vulnerable with friends. Like, can you really
Mm.
say that this is my friend if I've not been able to be open with them about anything? Like they don't really know what I'm really struggling with. Like, can we really say that we're friends if we were not able to do that? Like I know you, I know what you do, I mean, your career, you're a mother, but can I really call myself your friend if I don't know the depths of you, who you really are, the goals and vision of who you are, what you want to be, who God is calling you to be, really looking and seeing you for who you truly are. Like a lot of friendships I do see today, it's all about me. Like I want to vent and talk to you and tell you everything that I'm dealing with, and I want some advice, but I don't really always want to sit and give you that same advice. Like I need someone to be a sounding board for me, but I don't have the capacity to hear that in return. Or, whenever I want to go out, I want you to be ready and go with me. But if you keep turning me down, then, like it's across the board and everything in relationships, but it's a lot of selfish me, what can you do for me? What type of friend are you going to be for me type of thing. And it's disheartening because it makes you not ever want to be vulnerable. Like for someone like who has the character that we have that wants to be open, and most people do really want to. Like I don't care what they say. Most people want to be vulnerable. Like they can say they don't want to. They can say no, 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 because God created you and God created us as emotional beings. So for you to sit there and say I never want to use my emotions and open up and be able to share and let somebody in that way, that would be, you clearly have a wall up. Like it just means you've been hurt before. You've desired to be vulnerable, and then someone may have used your vulnerabilities against you. But I guarantee most people want to be vulnerable. You can't tell me that you want to be in relationship if you don't want to be vulnerable, because the relationship will never last. You can be It'd be a shallow relationship, I guess I would say. I'm not going to say it wouldn't last, because you can be shallow with each other, but it'll be no depth to it. There'll be no real connection. It'll be, you know what I mean, where dang, I haven't talked to you. Dang, I wish I wish I could share this with Valencia. I wish I could, you know what I mean? Like you wouldn't have that depth. And we were able to create the depth and connection with each other. And obviously we live in different places, but you visited me, I need to come visit you, I want to come visit you, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
you came here to Florida a couple times and we've hung out and everything, so we were able to keep our friendship going because we both want this.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want to be your friend, you want to be my friend, I want to build this and do things together. Like we said, we have the podcast together, so we're doing things together in our friendship. It's not just I'm just saying I know you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
what do people define as friends today?
Well, that's the interesting thing because a lot of people, like you said before, said, okay, it's hard to make friends. And it's like, okay, but have you defined what a friend is? And are you that? Like, I remember B. Simone saying, like, okay, people write down lists of what they want in a man, but are you that in yourself? And I can't remember if she said it or somebody said that to her. I can't really recall. It was some years ago. But I had to think about that for myself as a friend. And okay, so that takes vulnerability within yourself, saying, okay, who am I currently? Does that align with who a good friend is? Or does that align with an associate? Or does that align with someone you just walk by and you say, hey, and you keep it moving, It's like certain things I wanted from other people. I had to realize, okay, you have to step up and do that as well. You can't just say, be a friend to me, be a friend to me, be a friend to me, but you're not offering friendship. You're not
Mm-hmm.
offering a nurturing environment. You're not offering a shoulder to cry on. You're not offering laughter. You're not offering gifts still, like basically the love languages. Like I
Mm-hmm.
believe that applies to all relationships, whether, it might be different versions of that, but I definitely think that in order to be vulnerable with others, you have to be vulnerable within yourself
Mm-hmm.
and take the time to feel uncomfortable, because being vulnerable, it's not like for the faint of heart. Like you really have to slow down and assess where the pain is, where the happiness is, where the worries come, where the triggers. Oh my goodness, that's the one thing the triggers, I'd be like, "Ugh," you you just feeling it, like breathe, you're gonna work through this. How like I believe vulnerability is one of the first steps to healing, like making sure that you can be a well-rounded person by not sweeping things under the rug. It's like hasn't served you in the past, so it's not going to serve you in the present. Anyways, going back to the
Yeah.
vulnerability as a friend and how people are defining friendship, like you have to really get off of social media and stop trying to replicate what you see and just be what you want to be. Like be what you want to have in your reality. Be that person that people can call on and know that you're going to listen and not go, yeah, oh, that sucks. Man, that's crazy. What? Okay,
Yeah.
bye.
You're giving me nothing. Like,
Like, why are you even here? Like being present. That's another type of vulnerability, like I just, I believe that there's always going to be layers to the topics that we talk about on our podcast because there's just so many layers to life. There's so many layers to being a human and there's so many layers to being a friend. And it does take baby steps. It's not going to happen overnight. Um like with us, I believe that when I really started being your friend, I was like, okay, I need to allow her to have space. Okay, sorry. I just felt okay, let me reel back. So a little background with me is I have attachment issues. And I was like, okay, let me call, 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 let me not let them think that I forgot about them, because that's like what I was thinking when people wouldn't call me that they forgot about me, and
mhm.
I'm like, that's not healthy. To be a good friend is not to smother someone, and I feel like that's how I was operating. And so I'm like, okay, let me step back and give Amber room. Give Amber room to live her life. And if, not that it's a test of if we're friends, but, because we had built that friendship, I believed that she would call me when she was ready. And that's
Mhm.
what happened. And, sometimes life does get in the way and you don't talk for a little bit, but then you're like, wait, something's not right in my life. Like I haven't
Yeah.
talked in a while. Like I need to know what's going on. And, I feel like that's a sense of vulnerability because I had to allow the risk of perhaps not hearing from Amber because that's what I've experienced in the past when I stopped the communication. And like, this is really hard to talk about because I hadn't really put words to this, but I believe that's what makes our friendship stronger because you see it's reciprocal. You see that not only does she answer my phone calls, but she also calls me and wants to talk to me and wants to key with me if, or, you know, share, the things that is going on in her life and trusts me with that, like I think that is just like a top tier blessing because
Mhm.
I don't have many people that will do that, So I think I
You
answered.
just being vulnerable in this conversation today,
Okay.
boy.
Well, I mean, that's what speaking in the spirit is, when
Yeah.
you feel that pain, you're like, oh, I definitely have to talk and share about this because we want to help others know, like, you're not the only one going through,
Mhm.
sometimes it feels awkward to me, it feels weird again because I hadn't put words to it. And some of these things we don't think about it because we're just living our lives together, like I
Mhm.
hadn't really thought about that. I just was like, no, Amber's my person. You know what? That just brought me to how did us being vulnerable with each other bring you to the term of we're our soulmates or we're one of our soulmates. Do you
You
remember
asking
that?
me? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I was like,
Um.
what? I had never heard it
Yes.
in a friendship term.
Yes. So for that, first off, I learned what soulmates really was because I had always thought that soulmates were just um someone you were romantically involved with.
Right.
And that's supposed to be who your soulmate is because that's who you're doing life with. And then when I don't remember who I was watching. Not sure, maybe in Pastor Keon, but it was someone I was watching that he was talking about soulmates are not only um intimate partners, they're also people that you are friends with. Like you could be friends with soulmates. And I'm listening like, let me perk my ears up a little bit more. What does that
Right.
mean? Like, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So he was sharing, or she, I'll just say he was sharing the fact that a soulmate is someone who comes with you and your souls align, but not in like that, not in the we together way, but in a way that
Mhm.
we are aligned with who God is calling us to be. We are moving at the same pace in how God is calling us to move. We are equally wanting to we equally have the same goals, the same values. We want the best out of each other. We are equally wanting to be in relationship collectively, like together, you know what I'm saying? And so
Mhm.
when he said that, I was like, well, the only person I can think of that I'm like that with is you. Like I have my other friends and I love them to death, but the alignment when it comes to, like I said, how we do God and how we do purpose and things like that is not something that they specifically are doing, and that's fine with me, you know what I'm saying? Friendships in different areas, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But you
Right.
happen to be the only friend that I had that's like we sending Bible verses to each other, we praying with each other, we sending sermons to each other. Like you're the only person that I do that with, you know. I was like, this is my soulmate, like my friend's soulmate, like because she really is someone that I have this with, and I've never had anyone that gets me in that way. Like I was always very quiet, you know what I'm saying? But with you, I'm able to just be me, crazy me at times, you know what I mean? And typically, a lot of people are quiet because I'm a pretty deep person, you know, I'm a pretty deep person. And
Right.
so shallow conversations is just not something I know how to do. I don't know how to be like, how's your day going? And you know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm more
Yes.
like, what happened? What you doing? What's going on? How's life treating you type of thing. Like I'm that friend where you tell me your real life. I'm not the friend where someone, if I'm asking you, how are you doing? You just say good.
Yes.
Okay, well, where do we go from here? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not that girl. No, if I ask you how you doing, I really want to know, how are you doing? Like, what's going on with you? How are you feeling? How's life for you right now? Like, I want the real answer, and I want us to really talk about that. And so you are someone where when we talked and I would ask you, you would tell me like it's this. I'm like, oh, okay. Then I start telling you, you know. So that's how I knew that. I'm like, this is literally my soulmate because this is someone who is younger version, you know, you're younger, you know, that's okay. You ain't gonna talk about that, but
Get carded, okay? Yeah.
a younger version of me in certain areas, you know what I'm saying? And so just
Yeah.
being able to have that it's hard, you know what I mean? It's difficult, but I knew God was telling me that, which is why we stay connected, why we want to talk, why we want to do things together, because the more things we do together, the more we stay connected, you know what I'm saying? Let's do the
Mhm.
podcast, let's do this, let me help you with that, can you do this, let me bounce this idea off with you, you know. We both are, you
Mhm.
know, you're a creative entrepreneur, I do entrepreneur type things, you know what I'm saying? So those things we align with as well. So you know, a soulmate is someone who's with you forever. You know what I'm saying? And I do really feel like based on who we are and not who we are, who I am and who you are, that we will be friends forever because unless I change drastically somehow, some way, I don't expect to, but you know what I mean? Like,
I'm gonna have
I
to
mean,
pray
I
about that.
believe I'm me, you know,
Yeah.
but yeah, I believe that just for how God has called me to be in my true character, um, you get me and my real friends get me, but a new person to get me, I guess I would say, because those are the two people I've been friends with since I was 12 and 16.
Yeah.
But to see this older, grown adult version of Amber, I don't have really anybody who really takes the time to understand me. Like I'm really misunderstood in a lot of ways because I'm, like I said, I don't talk a lot or whatever the case may be, but you see me in ways that other people don't see me. And I really
Mhm.
value that because a lot of people don't get to have that. Like I said, majority of relationships tend to be very shallow. And so when I deal with shallow people, it actually annoys me a little bit. like you need some depth because you
Yeah.
can't be what you doing me all day. Like what I mean. Can we really have a real conversation? Not what you doing, how you doing. Like I can't build a friendship off of that. Like relationships cannot be
No.
built off of you just asking me how I'm doing and you just
Right.
telling me what you did for the day. Like relationships and are built on you being able to share who you really are. Like I've
Mm.
shared with you, man, I keep struggling here. I don't know why I keep doing this. Like, you know what I mean? Like a
Yeah.
lot of people don't want to share the bad things about them or the things they still struggle with or they want to get, what I mean? They only want to talk about either the good or what's fun or what's joyful. But me and you
Mm.
can share that I still struggle here and I'm trying not to, or I'm really feeling numb right now. I'm not feeling God. I feel nothing. Like, you know what I mean? And we can have those conversations and you're not like, well, go read the Bible. Like, you know what I mean? We can really talk about it and have some real conversations. And that is like rare.
Yeah. I will refer to what the Bible says, but I'm not
Yes.
like, go read the Bible.
Yes.
Oh, that's so funny. Like you kind of reminded me of like people that I cherish today. Like they call me out on stuff. And that is like in a fun way, they're not calling
Mhm.
me out in a way where it's like, oh, you did it. Like, no, like they make jokes about it. And it's like nice because I feel seen, like, um, I feel like they care in a way to know who I am to be able to call me out on, not that I'm BSing, but like, for example, this week I was in a training and a coworker calls me and they're like, "Oh, let's talk real quick." I'm like, "Oh, call me on my personal phone because the training just started." So they call me and they're like instantly like, "You ain't even paying attention in this training. What are you even talking about having me call you on your personal phone?" And I just started cracking up because I'm like, "First of all, you don't know me." But literally, I was like, I just had it on because it had something to do with the topic I wanted to learn about, but I wasn't about to be like pen and paper, like studying
Mhm.
hard. So I'm just like
Mhm.
those kinds of exchanges where you feel seen is just so awesome, and I think that like with like bringing it back to us because we are talking about us, like it's just it helps that you have someone in your life forever. You have someone that was always gonna have your best interests at heart, even if they have to say, "Hey, now, you're saying A, B, and C, you're saying it, but B sounds like you need to be doing something else." Okay, B
Yes.
and C is like, girl, what's happening? Okay. And then like to be able to share that with one another out of love and like coming out of a place of I'm not trying to harm you. I think that's what makes our vulnerability that much easier to fall into.
Mhm.
With and something I've learned about you is that when you want to talk, you'll talk, right? So like when you brought up numb, I'm like, we still haven't had that conversation because I felt like you weren't ready to tell me. Like I was
Mhm.
something about it. I was like, okay, let me just try to break the ice and tell her something funny to maybe like warm her up. And like we still didn't talk about it. So I'm like,
Mhm.
okay. But that's like that vulnerability I was talking about earlier, like giving you space. Like sometimes there's things with me I haven't shared because I needed space. And I feel like we've built that relationship to share when or like know when we're ready to be vulnerable with one another,
Mhm.
and then not pressuring, like, tell me, girl, like you said this
Yeah.
and da, 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 da," like,
Yeah.
I mean, clearly she didn't want to talk about it.
Right.
So like I used to bring stuff up, but like this time I feel like because numb is such a powerful expression of feeling, that that's something you can't pressure. But let's say you're like, girl, I was happy today. I'd be like, girl, tell me all about it. And I want to know every
Mhm.
detail. And da, 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 da. Like that's when I would pressure and open up about it,
Yeah.
or have you open up about it. But like, I think that's another type of, I guess, emotional awareness rather than vulnerability. But
Mhm.
I guess it goes hand in hand, because you have to be able to know who you're talking with and understand, perhaps you had someone around you and I just didn't know because we weren't on FaceTime. But then if I'm like, girl, you said this and da da da, you're like, I didn't want them to know, like,
Right.
then
Right.
it's just like this kind of, it's just knowing, like you're saying, know who your friend is, and know like that it is forever. So whether they want to talk about it now or they never want to talk about it, that it's okay. The only
Mhm.
reason I brought it up because you said it, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
No, it's
we
fine.
can talk
Yeah. Yeah.
about but like that's like what I feel like is a good friend, is that you allow them to have the space, you allow them to, sometimes it's not that they need the space, they just want to hear your voice, and to
Mhm.
be able to navigate that is, I don't know, it's just like top tier, you
Yeah.
don't have to fake it, you just are who you are, we are who we are to each other. um like, coming to your birthday this year and meeting your other best friend, I was like, I was like, I don't know if it was gonna happen. I'm like, but I go there as myself because that's all Amber has ever asked me to be, myself. And that's all who I'm ever gonna be. I really don't show up as anything else other than myself.
Mhm.
But there might be a little bit of awkwardness about me, but that's fine. But then when I met her, it was just nothing to worry about. And in that sense, I was able to be vulnerable too, because I'm like, well, there's things I want to talk to Amber about, or I've already spoken about it again, and I just want to bring it back up. I don't do that as much anymore, but certain things I felt okay opening up around your best friend, because I'm like, clearly, if you trust her, I can trust her too.
That's
So,
good.
um, that was like one of the best times of my life. And I will not
Yeah.
forget that. Just every day was so much fun. And I was so tired. I was so tired. I was like, I have not laughed this much. I have not, just been so joyous. And I think what was even more interesting, which I'll wrap up quickly, is that we were just able to literally talk about anything and everything under the sun, from the time we wake up to the time we're going to bed. Like, we were just talking. And that is so awesome to be able to be a part of. And I thank you for inviting me to your birthday, because it was a good
Yes.
time. Yeah, so I will hand it back over to you as we wrap up.
Mhm. Yeah, I think you pretty much kind of shared what it is to be a friend, basically. Like, it is to be vulnerable, to be open, to be able to know when to back off. When you are real friends, I learn you. Like, and this is basic one-on-one relationships. This is why they say it's important in when you're with boyfriend and girlfriend to husband and wife. Like, if you've never learned your person, then how long is that relationship really going to last? Because you don't know them.
It
Like, you
won't.
know this shallow version of who they are, but you haven't really got the depths of why they respond the way they respond, why they do what they do. And when you have real deep conversations, you get to know that, oh, this happened, this was this is why they respond this way. This is, like you said, I speak when I'm ready to talk. You know, when I'm not, I'll say this is how I feel, and when I'm ready to share, you'll know. And if I'm not, I'm not. It is what it is, and vice versa. Like, it's not pressing and making you say something. It is just being there and being in that safe space for each other. So yeah, that's super important. So I hope you guys enjoyed, like, us being able to share our friendship and how we've built the connection that we have. And this year, this season, not year, this season is going to be more in depth, more vulnerable, between the both of us, just sharing life, how to help people, what we're going through, and how we can help you guys just be better God versions of yourself. Not just a better version, but a God version, because who is God really calling you to be, right?
Yes.
So the next part of this is our praise no, not praise report. What is
Close.
it?
What we're believing God for.
Yes. Sheesh. Yes, what we're believing God for.
It's
Honestly, I'm gonna sound a little bit like you on this one.
okay.
I am believing God for a covering for husband,
Hmm.
because I've realized how as a woman who has a huge anointing and calling on my life, it is extremely difficult to do this by myself. Like, I'm going out into the world and I'm trying to do revival and helping women and breaking generational curses and really trying to win souls for Jesus. And to do that by yourself is extremely difficult, on top of having to be a mother and take care of a household by myself. Like, it is so hard. So I'm really believing God to bring me my husband, that can really help me in this walk with Jesus and help me help win souls as well, or whatever, however he can help, that whoever God has a line for me, he knows exactly what I need, what he's going to need. But I'm really believing God, because I'm starting to really see the older I'm becoming. I was okay with being single for a while, but I'm now at the stage where I'm not okay with that. Like, I really need a covering and a man that can help me along the way, and that I can help him, and that we can come together and do what God has called us to do.
Wow. Okay, so I almost teared up because that took me by surprise. And I was just watching some B Simone's podcast where Jason Wilson, I think his name was saying that
Oh yeah, I know him.
um he was like, why don't you need a covering? Why don't you want a husband? Like, it's fine to
Mm,
need those things because that's how we were designed.
mm-hmm.
So that just, I believe that's going to happen. And I believe that um, God is willing for you to have a husband and a covering, and you will see your husband.
Thank you.
What you're welcome. What I'm believing God for is basically just becoming whole and to address my insecurities without backing down. Um, and just to know further of what I'm capable of.
Mm,
Um, yeah.
that's good. That's
So,
good. Yeah.
yeah, just because I don't know. There's just always this like feeling of that I'm not enough, but I know that I am and I believe that, but why don't I feel that? You know? So I'm like, there's
Mm-hmm.
still something that I haven't addressed yet. And with therapy, I hope to come across what that is and to be able to shame it and say, not anymore in the name of Jesus, you know?
I know that's right. And I would let you pray us out for this one.
Okay, sounds good. I know that's my role. I am definitely
Mm-hmm.
have the gift of prayer.
Yes, you do.
And I want to also share with our followers and our listeners that we're going to be reading Daring Greatly this season, and definitely we're going to be referencing it. I believe, yes, Brene Brown is the author. Daring Greatly is the book that we're going to be reviewing this season. Well, not reviewing, but basically reading it and implementing it and just sharing what, the Lord highlights to us.
Mm-hmm.
So you bow your heads and close your eyes like a good Baptist. I'm just kidding. So giggly today. Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, we call you Abba, we call you friend, we call you
Yes.
shepherd, we call you
Yes.
leader, we call you healer. We know that you
Yes.
are all powerful and almighty, God, that there is
Mhm.
nothing that stands in your way towards victory. You are victorious and
Yes.
righteous, holy and wonderful, God. We just thank you for who you are. We thank you for crossing our paths together to bring your glory onto this earth, God. We thank you that you have orchestrated this wonderful friendship to bring more people to you, God. You are just so strategic, Lord, that I just thank you and I praise your name because there's just no way I could have done this by myself.
Yes.
There's just no way I would have been a good friend without you tearing away the things that were not of you, God. Taking me to transform me to be a reflection of you, God, because I am your image. And I pray
Hallelujah.
that as we go on this journey together into vulnerability, God, that you will continue to show us and illuminate within us that we are your children and that
Yes.
you love us unconditionally and that we have no reason to doubt or fear or to worry, God, because everything is in your hands. We
Hallelujah.
love you, we trust you, and we just want to lift your name up higher because your name is sovereign. Yahweh, you're awesome. Jesus, Yeshua, Emmanuel, we love you.
Thank you, Jesus.
Ru, Ruach, Holy Spirit Advocate, we thank you
Thank
for being the Holy Trinity that can bring everything
you.
to their knees because you are the creator and you are
Thank
who we should worship and love and cherish for the rest of our lives.
you.
In Jesus'
Hallelujah,
holy
Lord.
name I pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. That was good. That was good.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you for listening for this episode. Tune in on Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. That's when we'll have new episodes every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. for you guys to listen to. So this is season 3 launching,
Woo,
vulnerability
woo.
season. You guys have a good night. Bye.
Bye.